Hello, everyone. The time has come for me to do some more predicting. I did some Golden Globe predictions, and those went pretty well. So I'm feeling pretty confident. Today, we're going to be doing my Oscar nomination predictions. Now, quick caveat. I'm not going to be picking who I think is going to be the winner during this because it doesn't make sense to be maybe picking a winner before we even have the nominations available to us. So these are just purely nomination picks. So if you look at my screen right now, you'll see that I've got two columns here. So I have the category that we're going to be doing. I'm not going through all of the categories at the Oscars. I just feel like we would be here all day. So I'm just sticking to these 10 categories, the maybe, I don't want to say most important because they are all incredibly important, but these are the ones that I feel like people pay attention to more often. And maybe I'll make a separate video where I cover the other nominations, or maybe I'll just post my predictions somewhere down in the comments for you all to see. But we have one column that says my picks, and then we have another column that says maybe these films or these people will get a nomination. Yeah, I also want to take a quick moment and maybe just acknowledge the absurdity of doing something like this while so many people are being affected by the fires in LA. I really had a strong debate within myself about whether or not to do this. The nominations were pushed back due to the fires in LA, and I know so many people have had their lives decimated due to those, and it does feel strange doing something like this, talking about the Oscars when so many people are so uncertain about the future of their livelihood and whatnot. So I do want to acknowledge that if there's any way anyone out there can support or help to get people in LA back on their feet, I encourage you all to reach out and do that. I'm going to try to find some links to some maybe disaster relief or places that you could donate down in the comments. Definitely check those out. But yeah, I'm aware that it feels very strange to be doing something like this right now. I don't necessarily feel 100% good about it, but you know, the Oscars are going to happen, and I think everyone needs a little bit of hope right now. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to hope that the movies and people that I'm picking in each category are going to be nominated at the Oscars when the Oscar nominations are announced. Now, if you're looking at my screen, you could see that I've got the 10 categories, and we're going to go in ascending order. We're going to start with cinematography down here, and we're going to work our way up to Best Picture. So without further ado, why don't we go for it? So for my picks in the cinematography category, we have The Brutalist, Nosferatu, Nickel Boys, Dune 2, and Conclave. I think we could all kind of agree this is a pretty solid list right here. And the only one of these I haven't seen is Nickel Boys, but based on everything I've been seeing, trailers-wise, footage-wise, this movie looks incredible. And I believe Ramel Ross, the director and I believe writer of the Nickel Boys adaptation, was a photographer or still is a photographer or some sort of visual artist in general. So I think he's got a keen eye for making beautiful images, essentially. But we do have some films in the maybe category. So I'd want to shout those out here because they could pop up. We have Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Substance. Now, I hesitated putting some of these on here, like Wicked. I personally, and I know a lot of other people who agree, I personally don't think that it looks that great. I think a lot of us were kind of missing that like vibrant Technicolor feeling, and I only saw it a few times. Maybe like during Popular when that song played, I was like, oh, maybe this is the vibe I was going for, but I didn't really see too much of that vibrant Technicolor feeling that, you know, that The Wizard of Oz gives you. Emilia Perez, I just don't think holds up to the others. I think the only one that I would be happy to see sneak in here would be The Substance, maybe knocking out Conclave or something, just as like something with really unique cinematography. It could pop in there. So those are my picks, and those are the maybes for cinematography. Now let's move on to animated feature. Here are my picks for animated feature. We have Flow, Wallace and Gromit, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, and The Wild Robot. Now, this seems like a pretty solid list to me, and I think these are the nominations, maybe with the exception of Moana 2, which while I'm at it, that's going to be my maybe pick. Moana 2 might sneak in there. I don't know who it would knock out, maybe Memoir of a Snail or something, but I know the critical reception of Moana 2 wasn't so great. We can see another Golden Globe situation where Flow kind of maybe shocks everyone and takes it. If not, I think maybe The Wild Robot. Again, I'm not really doing predictions of the winners just yet. That's going to be a whole separate video. But I really think that this is going to be our animated picture or animated feature lineup. All right, let's move on to adapted screenplay. Here are my picks for adapted screenplay. We have Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, and Dune 2. Once again, this kind of feels a bit cut and dry in terms of all of the precursor awards we've been seeing. A lot of these, Conclave, Nickel Boys, I think has a real shot at being here. I feel like this is a movie that is criminally underseen, even by myself. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been wanting to see it since the second it was announced. I've read the book. The book is incredible. I highly recommend the book if you haven't. In terms of like that word adapted being translated into like a nomination, like the way that Nickel Boys was adapted is just incredibly interesting to me in a way that these other movies aren't. They almost feel too connected to their adaptation or to their source material, whereas Nickel Boys seems like a true innovation in the way that it's adapted. So, I think I haven't seen it yet, but everyone is telling me that it's incredible. Oh, my coffee is ready. I'm gonna go grab my coffee real quick. Okay, I'm back. I have my coffee now. So that's good. I was doing this so early in the morning. Anyway, so I was talking about Nickel Boys. I do think Nickel Boys is gonna be in there. A Complete Unknown is doing incredible numbers. Dune 2 is one that I think a lot of people are losing hope on, and I think we might talk about that in a little bit when we get up to director or something. I do have one maybe, and this is a hopeful maybe for me, as it was my favorite movie of the year, but it is Sing Sing. I absolutely adore Sing Sing. I think it was my favorite movie of 2024, and that this is one we're going to be talking about as we get to the oncoming categories, because I think it is one that is unfortunately being left out to dry by A24. I think a lot of people are calling this the Iron Claw of this award season. If you saw the Iron Claw, you probably, like everyone else who saw it, were like, why isn't this a bigger awards player? I loved the Iron Claw when it came out, but it seemed like A24 just kind of forgot about it, or they were just sort of, they released it too late or something. And Sing Sing had this weird limited release and just sort of, I don't know. I do think right now it is getting a re-release in theaters, which is great, but hopefully it's not too little too late. And hopefully maybe it could sneak into adapted screenplay. I don't really know what it would kick out. I mean, Conclave, Emilia Perez, they seem like locks at this point. Nickel Boys, in my opinion, feels like a lock. A Complete Unknown, maybe it kicks out A Complete Unknown. Who knows? I don't know. Let's move on to original screenplay. And here are my picks for original screenplay. We have Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Challengers. Now, I had a hard time coming up with number 5 for this one, and I do think Challengers could sneak in there. The screenplay by Justin Kuritzkis is, I don't know, pretty well regarded among people. I think it was his first feature screenplay, which is mind-blowing that he's even in the conversation for this movie. I mean, the movie ended up turning out incredible, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I do think the first 4 here might be locks. I have a maybe, and this is more of, again, a hopeful maybe for me, just because I loved this movie and I loved, in particular, the screenplay for A Different Man. Now, I don't really think that this has any shot at getting in here. I do think that if you're watching this, you probably have a whole list of other movies that would go above A Different Man as the potential 5th candidate or something. But I really, really do want to urge everyone to watch A Different Man and take notice of the screenplay, because I do think it was wildly inventive and just incredibly interesting. All right, moving on to Best supporting actor. So these are my picks for best supporting actor. We have Guy Pearce. We have Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Clarence Macklin. We'll talk about that in a second. In Sing Sing, Yora Borisov in Honora, and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. I every single list that I see, whether it be on Reddit or elsewhere, is omitting Clarence Macklin from this list. You know, there's the part of me that wants to do like two lists, which is just like my ideal nominations, and then the ones I actually think are going to be nominated. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, I think Sing Sing is being left on the floor by A24. There's like that meme where it's like Andy is from Toy Story is like dropping Buzz Lightyear or something, and he's like, I'm not playing with this toy anymore or whatever. I feel like that's the Sing Sing of this year. It's really frustrating because I think Clarence Macklin gives, in my opinion, my favorite supporting actor performance, even over Kieran Culkin and Guy Pearce, which might be shocking to some of you out there. I do think Kieran Culkin and Guy Pearce have a strong shot at winning, and I think are incredible. I think all of these are incredible performances. But Clarence Macklin, I would love to see nominated. I don't know that he's going to be there, but again, these are kind of half hopeful, half actual predictions. In the maybe category, I have Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2, and I threw in Peter Sarsgaard for September 5. I really loved his performance in that movie, and I really loved that movie more than I think most people did. Yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture at the Golden Globes and not much else. And I don't think September 5 really has a shot at sneaking into any of these categories at this point, but I do highly recommend it. I do think people should check out September 5 when they get a chance. And yeah, those are my picks. Let's move on to supporting actress. So this one also feels a bit cut and dry, but here are my picks. My picks are Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, and Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. Now, this is an incredibly tough category to pick. Margaret Qualley might not be in here. I'm throwing her in there because I think The Substance is really gaining steam, and people are really enjoying that movie, and word of mouth has been very strong on that movie. I do have some maybes, and one of these maybes for a lot of people is a lock to be nominated. I'm putting it in maybe mainly because I don't want to see it nominated, and it's nothing personal against the actress. It's just purely out of like, if I had to kick out one of these people for this person, I'd be incredibly upset. And I am, of course, talking about Isabella Rossellini in Conclave. This to me just feels like if she were to get a nomination, it would purely be a career retrospective nomination. It would be a nomination for whatever she's done in the past, and not particularly for the performance in Conclave. Not that she's bad in Conclave, but she's barely there in Conclave. If you've seen the movie, you know she has like 3 scenes. She probably doesn't even have like maybe more than like 6 or 7 lines of actual dialogue. And I don't know. I just don't want to see her nominated because it would mean kicking out one of these people. Like if Margaret Qualley didn't get a nomination, over, and Isabella Rossellini did, I'd be like, come on, what are we doing here? Same thing with someone like Monica Barbaro, who's incredible as Joan Baez in A Complete Unknown. So yeah. As for Jamie Lee Curtis, this is another film I have not seen. I have not seen The Last Showgirl, and it's going to come up again later in this conversation. But I think she just got, I could be wrong about this, a SAG nomination. And, there might be some real legs. I think she got a Golden Globe nom for this. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about The Last Showgirl. Maybe it's going to sneak in there at the end. But it would be kind of annoying if The Last Showgirl sneaks in there. A movie that I've heard is not very good. Or not that it's not very good, but that it's just like not on par with some of these other movies that we're talking about here. I'm also someone who's in the camp that I didn't think that Jamie Lee Curtis should have won for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But that's, hey, clearly enough people thought that she deserved it to win that award. But I don't think that she should have won that year. And yeah, these are my picks and my maybes for supporting actress. Why don't we move on to best actor? This is a category that is very, very tough and contentious this year. All right, so for my picks for best actor, I have Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo, Sing Sing, and here's one that's going to throw a lot of people off. And again, this is maybe just me being hopeful, but honestly, if I get 4 out of 5, fuck it, who cares? I put Sebastian Stan in particular for A Different Man in there. Now, let's just move on to my maybes in this category because I think a lot of other people are going to put one of these people in. I think I have Daniel Craig in Queer in my maybe category, and I also have Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice going into this category. I was blown away by Sebastian Stan's output this past year. A Different Man, again, is one of my favorite movies of the year. I think he's incredible in The Apprentice. I think if he were to get into Best Actor, it would most likely go to his performance for The Apprentice just because it's a bit showier, it's a bit more high profile than something like A Different Man. Another movie that I feel like was kind of just forgotten by a lot of people. But I personally preferred his performance in A Different Man. I think he's great in that movie. Daniel Craig in Queer, also incredible, also could get nominated. If I had to go with one over the other, I would go with Sebastian Stan. And also maybe part of my reasoning for that is that I want to pick an actor who I think had an outstanding output throughout the year. So I'm almost kind of combining the like Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice and Sebastian Stan in A Different Man into just like, I want to see Sebastian Stan at the awards. I want to see him nominated. And so that's what I'm going with. Those are my picks. You know what? There's a part of me that's like wants to take this incredibly seriously and be like, these are the ones I know are going to be nominated. But I also just kind of want to shout out movies that I think deserve recognition. And I think A Different Man really deserves more recognition than it's getting. All right, let's move on to Best Actress. Here are my nominees. Mikey Madison, Honora, Demi Moore, The Substance, Fernanda Torres, and I'm Still Here, a movie that I have not seen, but hey, she picked up a Golden Globe win. So that's not nothing. I think that she is very much in the conversation now. Cynthia Erivo, Wicked, and Carla Sofia Gascon in Emilia Perez. Now, let's move on to my maybes for this category because we're going to see some things that might pop up here. I don't know who these people would knock out, but Kate Winslet in Lee, she could sneak up. There was the whole like Andrea Riseborough thing. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I forget. But, she could sneak in. Also, Andrea Riseborough is in Lee, I'm pretty sure, which is interesting. But Kate Winslet could sneak in there. I did really like that movie. And I think in particular, she gives a very powerful performance in that movie. So I could see her kicking out one of these people. I don't know who. I mean, if I had it my way, I wasn't particularly that big of a fan of Wicked in general, and I don't really want to see Cynthia Erivo in here. Also considering that part 2 of Wicked is coming out this year. So, it's like, could we just push her nomination maybe to next year? I don't know. Maybe she's going to be even better in part 2. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, so Kate Winslet could sneak in there. Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl. A lot of you have seen my review of Baby Girl. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. And I was a little lukewarm on the movie. I was pretty hot on Nicole Kidman's performance. I think she gives a pretty great performance. And I have Pamela Anderson here for The Last Showgirl, a movie that, again, I have not seen, but a lot of people are talking about, in particular at this point in the awards race. So these are people that could sneak into Best Actress. But I do think that this category and the ones that I have in my picks are locks at this point. But you never know with these things. Let's move on to director. Now, this is an interesting category. I think they're all interesting categories, but all right. My picks are Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Honora, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, Corley Farge for The Substance. Might be a shock to some people out there. Edward Berger for Conclave. Now, there's one pretty glaring omission here that I'm going to talk about in maybe because I do think if I lived in a just world, and I think a lot of people agree, Denis Villeneuve would be in this category, maybe knocking out Corley Farge or Edward Berger. I don't see Jacques Audiard not getting a nomination, especially given the love for Emilia Perez in the industry that we saw in the Golden Globes. But Denis Villeneuve being recognized for Dune 2 would be incredible. I also threw in Ramel Ross in here. Now, the reason I haven't seen Nickel Boys, but the reason I'm putting Ramel Ross in here is because part of the question when it comes to who you nominate is someone who is doing something that is maybe innovative or doing something that really shows off the direction. And everything that I've seen and heard about Nickel Boys is that it's a movie that really is directed. Like it really is steered in a direction that is maybe counter or not counter, but is wildly different from its source material. And I think that that is something that is incredibly important when it comes to talking about best director. You know, like what are we talking about? Like we weren't on set. We didn't get to see who directed the movie the best. You know, and I think sometimes it's easy to just sort of pick best director as it almost as a sister category to best picture, right? If the movie is really good, it must be directed well or something like that. And I don't know, I generally try to see the best director category a little bit differently. And in particular, I think what I've seen of Nickel Boys and what I've seen that Ramel Ross has done with Nickel Boys has piqued my interest and has done something to my brain. And I might feel totally different after I see the movie, but based on everything I've heard, the direction of that movie is a highlight of that movie. Like it is something that you come away thinking about. So I want to put Ramel Ross in the conversation. I don't know who he would kick out. Edward Berger is beloved by the Academy. Coralie Farge's The Substance, her direction of The Substance is sort of in the similar vein to Nickel Boys, exactly what we're talking about. Like you look at it and you think, wow, that was directed very interestedly. Like that was from the point of view of someone who has an actual vision for how this film is going to play out, how this story is going to play out. So yeah, these kind of seem like locks to me. I would like to see either Ramel Ross or Denis Villeneuve. I don't think both of them would kick two people out of here. Like you can make the argument that Coralie Farge and Edward Berger could get kicked out in favor of Ramel Ross and Denis Villeneuve, but I don't think so. Yeah, those are my picks for Best Director. Now, let's move on to Picture. Here we go. In Best Picture, I have Anora, The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Wicked, Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, Conclave, Sing Sing, and Dune Part 2. In the maybe category, I put The Substance, just because this is a real maybe film. You never know. I mean, I have The Substance represented in a lot of other categories, which would lead you to think like, oh, it should probably be in my picks. If it were going to knock out anything, I think it would probably knock out Sing Sing or A Real Pain, just because, like I've been saying this whole time, Sing Sing has been wildly forgotten by A24, outside of maybe championing Coleman Domingo and his performance. But yeah, I think these are pretty solid picks. Based on everything I'm seeing about Nickel Boys, and I'm going to see the movie soon, I think it's going to sneak in there. You can maybe say The Substance will knock out Nickel Boys, or it'll knock out A Real Pain. But The Substance is really one of those movies that shouldn't work on paper in terms of the Academy Award nominations. It does not seem like a movie. It's a body horror movie, right? But it's getting so much love at so many precursor awards, and it's getting so much word of mouth. A lot of people are talking about it. People who don't go to the movies regularly are coming up and asking me if I've seen The Substance, you know? So it's one of those things where it could really sneak in there, and it's a real possibility. But as for all of these other ones, Anora, The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Wicked, I like these 1, 2, 3, 4, these 5 I think are locked 5s. Those are in there. I would even maybe throw Conclave in there at 6. But it's the last 4. It's the Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, Sing Sing, Dune 2 that are a little bit rocky at this point. There's also some like international features that could pop up in there. You never know. Like I could put, maybe I'll just do it right now, live on air. You know, I'm Still Here. This could pop in there. I mean, I think maybe that slot is filled by Emilia Perez, but with the love that Fernando Torres is getting for this film, and I've heard incredible things about I'm Still Here. I think it was one of the highest rated films on Letterboxd this past year, which is interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hearing great things. Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty confident about this. In a just world, Sing Sing would get in there. I do think The Substance might deserve to be in there. I might knock out A Real Pain and put The Substance in there. But yeah, I don't know. This is a real tough year for the Academy Awards. I think that we can all agree on that. I mean, every year I feel like is a little bit tough, but this year in particular, there's a lot of really great either performances or nominees that are just like right on the outskirts, that are like neck and neck with that fifth slot or something. So yeah, this is my list. These are my Oscar nomination predictions. I'm going to have a video coming out after the actual nominations come out. I'll do a full reaction, and then I'm most likely going to make another video about my solid predictions of who I think are going to win, just like I did with the Golden Globes. And that's going to do it for me. Like I mentioned at the top, head down to the comments and find ways that you can support and donate to disaster relief for those affected by the LA wildfires. And yeah, be on the lookout for more videos on this channel. You can find that subscribe button, and I will see you all next time.